to Laura today about getting Carrie Cassidy on the show. And all of us have been working so hard over the years to get this information out. And now we have a whole new audience to get this information out to, and because really the future, and this is what I truly believe, I believe the future is in our students that we have studying right now. And if they can get a thinking outside the box mentality and not keep themselves so inside the box, that we will have a better tomorrow. We will have that positive timeline that you and I have been talking about for many years.
Exactly. I'm going to keep on going.
Yes.
And we have the evidence from the memorandum to the U.S. Congress, which was submitted right after the November 2006 election, which was when the Democrats regained control of the House of Representatives, and that was significant because up until that point, if you were going to have an independent prosecutor to prosecute Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld and their administration, who had been principals of the 9/11 military attack upon the United States. Mm-hmm. Well, the Republicans in the Congress wouldn't do it because they were of the same party. And so at that point, the incoming chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, which is where this matter would happen, we went to him with a memorandum which had been jointly drafted by three of the leading scholars on 9/11, mm-hmm. David Griffin, Loren Murray, and myself. And that was to show that there was prima facie evidence. That is, when you have a grand jury and you want to show that you need an independent prosecutor, you want to show that there's a cause for indictment, the standard is that you have to show due cause. There's due cause for an indictment to issue here. And so we formed a memorandum, and all of this is going to be in an article that accompanies the video that we're producing here tonight.
So we are producing a video tonight. And
oh, yeah.
This is where we're going to put this on Actual Politics TV, correct?
Yeah, correct. Okay. So this video set out the evidence that President George W. Bush, Vice President Richard B. Cheney, mm-hmm. Secretary of Defense Donald H. Rumsfeld, that they each knowingly participated in the 9/11 attacks.
Right.
And then it showed that the September 11th 9/11 attacks were, quote, acts of treason under Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. Because under Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution, which is the treason article, it says that it is treason for a citizen of the United States to engage in, quote, levying war mm-hmm. against the United States. In other words, the definition of treason is very different from what most people think. The definition of treason is in the Constitution is if a person levies war or gives comfort to an enemy of the United States. And here you had the president, the vice president, and the Secretary of Defense directing military assets that levied war against the United States. They were cruise missiles that were directed off of an aircraft carrier off of New Jersey that hit the Pentagon. There were directed energy weapons that turned the mass of the World Trade Centers into nanoparticles.
Right.
That's why you didn't have any detritus when the World Trade Center towers in Building 7 just went poof.
Right.
They were turned into nanoparticles.
That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, otherwise you would have had 20. Normally you would have had 20 stories of trash.
Yeah.
Of detritus, and you didn't have it. They just were poofed. And there were no bodies. The only body that was found was the knuckle finger of the small finger, a knuckle joint of a small finger on the roof of an adjoining bank building. All the bodies were poofed, were turned into nanoparticles.
Exactly. And
by the directed energy weapon.
And not to mention, over half of the employees that were Jewish were told that day to stay home.
Yeah. This was an Israeli war attack.
Yes.
And what is more, the state of Israel sent a plane with a high-ranking Israeli official to New York to evacuate all of the Israeli officials and military and intelligence officials that were involved in this war attack. And they evacuated them out, and they evacuated all the high Saudis that were involved in it.
The Obama family.
And Bush and Department of Defense directed the whole thing. This was high treason. This was an act of war by the state of Israel. This was high treason by the elected officials of the United States. And everyone was compromised. So what happened is that we met with the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, and we submitted this memorandum. He was up in Detroit. And so we met with his one of his staff persons. She said, well, we're going to get it to him on the Thanksgiving weekend. This was during Thanksgiving weekend.
Right.
And she said, this is really serious. So it was sent up. And of course, we haven't heard a peep since.
Well, and I said the Obama.
Why? Because all these guys are on the payroll.
Right.
They're all on the CIA payroll.
And I just said it, the Obama family. I just wanted to make that. I meant the Bin Laden family was evacuated. They were here weren't they in D.C. at the time?
They were. The Bin Laden family attended the board meeting held by George H.W. Bush of the Carlyle Group in Washington, D.C.
Exactly.
on 9/11. Yeah, it's like the worst thing of crony capitalism, exists. So and they all set it up so that Cheney's company would get the sole source contracts for the Gulf War, for the Iraq War, coming out of this to make billions of dollars.
Well, let me just interrupt you because I'm a Minnesotan, and you probably remember this. We would have not gone to war if Senator Paul Wellstone would have been kept alive. Because ironically, right before the Iraq War, when the Senate came into to vote, Paul Wellstone was an advocate that we will not go to war, and the Senate has to do it in a unanimous decision. Well, what happens to Paul Wellstone? This is a whole other show we could do on this. Paul Wellstone ends up in a plane crash up in rural Minnesota somewhere on a beautiful day. And here we go. I can remember I was at the memorial for Paul Wellstone, and it was just I was within spitting distance of President Clinton and Hillary, and I saw Joseph who was the Speaker of the House at that point in time. Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Anyways, I saw Joseph Lieberman. I saw everybody, and it was so funny because the governor of Minnesota at the time was Jesse Ventura, and Jesse actually walked out of the memorial because he was so sickened by what he saw with these this monstrosity that was happening. I mean, it was a political firestorm that was happening, and then what did they do? Minnesota sends in a senator that voted yes on the Iraq war. And, of course, where did we go? We went right into war.
Yeah, no. And I can tell you, as a former director of the Assassination Information Bureau, where we were a public interest group, I personally was called to Washington by Representative Henry B. Gonzalez of Texas, the chairman of the House Banking Committee, back in 1976, to help him found the House Select Committee on Assassinations. We investigated the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, and Malcolm X. And I also investigated the assassination of Paul Wellstone.
Oh, you did?
And yeah, and we passed that information on to Professor Fetzer, who is one of the chief witnesses of the 9/11 War Crimes Tribunal. And you're quite correct that Paul Wellstone was assassinated.
I knew that off the bat. I knew.
So this is a government that operates via assassination and via war crime, and so this is the restoration of law. And so what I'm saying is that tonight, September 11th, 2014, which we're now on the positive timeline, which came in with December 12th, 2012. The old formula of problem, reaction, solution is gone. The new formula is positive future equals positive timeline plus unity consciousness. That is like a steamroller. It's just, we're going through like an icebreaker.
Isn't that great that we can?
It's just totally great.
It's fantastic because you and I have been talking about this for years.
Oh yeah,
I'll never forget. When we first did our first interview together back in 2011, May of 2011, and the last thing you asked me, you said, what is the essence of everything that you're trying to say here, Donny? And I said, we're going down a positive timeline.
Yeah,
we have nothing to fear. Nothing to fear. Their whole fear-mongering system is going to the birds, and we are winning. And that's a great thing to know. Even though, we have to maybe look beyond our differences, and, maybe we got some things going on with the Vatican we got to start looking at and all that sort of stuff. But other than that, the collective unconsciousness, and I talked about this on the show, the first show here on KBeach, the collective unconsciousness will always win. Dr. Carl Jung talked about this, and that's always been a fascination of mine is, the collective unconsciousness wants to live with the source, wants to live a timeline that is positive, and I think we are more than heading down that path. And I really want to thank you tonight for joining me on the air, Alfred. It is such a wonderful, it's always a great experience to have you. We've been together not only on Exopolitics TV, we've been together on Freedomizer Radio, we've been together on Truth Frequency Radio, now we're together on KBeach. We would have never thought about this 3 years ago. Ever.
Exactly.
Never.
Exactly.
And here we are. And, why don't you tell everybody the best ways to find you, to read your articles and all of that good stuff, and then we're going to sign off for the night.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, look, for tonight, and I'm really going to focus on this because I'm here in my capacity as judge of the 9/11 War Crimes Tribunal, and I ask all persons who wish to appear as a witness before the 9/11 War Crimes Tribunal and to be sworn for that tribunal to contact our tribunal at tribunal@911warcrimestribunal.org. Our tribunal's website is 911warcrimestribunal.org. And we're serious about now coming back into session. We are the sole citizens tribunal on this planet that is at this time moving forward to bring to justice under international humanitarian law the Geneva Conventions, the Statute of Rome, those who have committed crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide in the events of 9/11.